Hey, welcome to Hiking for Health. Today's video is a tent comparison. So I've brought my Tri-Nordic sleeping mat, my OEX Bobcat one, and my Vango Banshee 300 Pro. These two tents are what I use when I go wild camping. And I've had this one for about 4 years. I bought it spring 2019 from Go Outdoors. And I think I paid about £130 for it. It's served me well. It's been all over the place and it's still going strong. It's never let in any water. It's been a fab tent. But recently, a few months ago, I bought the OEX Bobcat 1. This is a fantastic tent. Cost me £59, I believe, from Go Outdoors. The price was a lot higher. I think it was 220 odd, and they're usually on sale for about 120-ish. But they were having one of their deals where they were selling them cheap. So £59 was a bargain for this tent. The Vango Banshee 300 Pro is what they call a 3-man tent, but it's not. It's a very, very roomy 1-man tent. 2 people can fit in it quite snugly, but certainly not a 3-man tent. It's got a hydrostatic head of 5,000 millimeters. As I said before, it's extremely waterproof and does what it needs to. It's got a tension band system where in strong winds you can stabilize the tent, but we'll show you a bit more of that later. The OEX Bobcat 1 is a 1-person tent. It's just big enough to fit in. It's quite cozy in there. When your sleeping mat's in the Bobcat 1, it's not moving. The sleeping space is just big enough to put in your sleeping mat. And so it's quite a cozy tent. And it's a very sturdy tent. So it's the battle of the backpacking budget tents today. So I'll get them both pitched and then we'll talk through them. So the Vango Banshee Pro 300 comes in this brilliant pack. It's an oversized bag so that you can just, at the end when you want to get away off the hill, you can just throw everything in. And then you can see the room there is just great. Lots of space to put the tent. As you can see, it's got the tension band system, 5,000 millimeter hydrostatic head. It's fire retardant and it has some eco alloy poles. There are 2 of them. One's a smaller one for the bottom and a larger one for the top. Okay, so in the bag, I've used this tent so many times. You've got your poles, and when you open it up, you've also got your pegs. Now at the moment, my inner and outer are all connected together, so you've got the fly and the inner tent all connected. So the pegs that come with the Vango Banshee, they're nothing to write home about. They're your standard metal pegs. I really need to swap these out, but I just haven't got round to it yet. And the poles are very lightweight and they're very strong, although on one particular wild camp when I had some high winds, one of the poles did get a little bent. So the poles are pre-shaped. This is the bent pole I have. But that's the shape of the small pole. And then That's the size of the larger pole, which is at the back. Okay, so what I tend to do when I'm pitching the tent is I lay it all out flat and I have a think about where I'm going to be sleeping and where I'll be laying that night so that I can keep my my body flat. And then open it all out. And then what I tend to do is I tend to peg in the very front. So when you've got both of your poles through, the small one at the front and the large one at the back, and the front two pegs in, then you just pull out from the back and then the tent takes shape. And then you can get it roughly where you want it. And then you can go around and peg everything out as you want. So that's the tent all pitched. So let's have a look inside. So this is the main vestibule, which is a reasonable size. There are 2 doors and an area at the head end for extra storage and ventilation. So it's got 2 zips, one to open it completely and one to act as a fly sheet. And then you've got more storage space at the back if you need it. This is the tension band system. So they go through the tent, just through some Velcro openings there. Then on each side you've got these, which go through here. And then up to the clips at the top, which you can also put through inside the tent. Great for high winds. The outer fly sheet doors both have these holes in them, so you can attach your walking poles and have your doors fully open if you want to keep out a bit of the rain, but still want a bit of breeze coming through your tent. This door doesn't have a vestibule, but there is a little bit of room down there for a pair of shoes. Inside you've got some mesh at the end for ventilation, as well as at the top. And then of course you've got that at the back for more storage and extra ventilation if you need it. There are 2 pockets either side. One I tend to use for the door if I need it. And then you've got pockets at the top corners as well. The distance between the fly sheet and the inner tent is good. There's a good space, so it allows that circulation of air. And once you've connected all your inner to the outer once, you don't need to take it off again. So that's the Vango Banshee 300 Pro pitched. Now let's have a look and see what the Bobcat 1 OEX looks like when it's pitched. The OEX Bobcat 1 comes in what's like a dry bag with a roll top. It's not as spacious as the Vango Banshee 300's bag, which is very much oversized, but it's still a good size. So you can fit your tent in quite easily when you're taking it down, but you have to roll it. With the OEX Bobcat 1, there's one pole, one large pole, and it can be sometimes very tricky to attach to the tent. The pegs, they're not great that come with the tent. I'd advise switching these out. I haven't done it yet myself, but it's something I'm definitely going to be doing. The bags that come with the OEX, they come with a drawstring, but it doesn't have a toggle, so you can't cinch it down, so you have to tie them up. I usually start by opening up the pole, which is a fair old size. Okay, very similar to the pole for the Vango Banshee. An alloy pole. It's thin, lightweight, does its job. Again, the Bobcat is very similar to the Banshee in that it comes with an outer fly and an inner that you have to attach. Once you've attached the inner, you can leave it on. However, in the 4 years I've had the Banshee, I've had the inner on and never had to reattach any of the toggle points. Whereas the Bobcat, I have. After the first use, the 2 toggle points at the back came loose, so I simply used a couple of carabiners to attach them so that they wouldn't come loose. When your pole's placed in position, I tend to put the pole into one of the ends and then peg out, once you've got a rough idea where you want your tent to be, peg out the main corners quite loosely, as you'll need to change things. Now obviously it's a calm day, there's no wind, it's a very hot day, and these pegs aren't going in great, but I've put this up before in very high winds, and keep everything down is very important. I would absolutely recommend making sure that your doors are done up. Leave a gap, but what you don't want is to pitch the tent and then realize your door doesn't close, and you've gone round, you've put all the pegs in and it's nice and tight and how you want it, and then you have trouble with the door. Okay, so you've got your main 4 corners pegged out, you've got your main pole through the middle into one end, make sure it's attached in one end, and then you come back to this corner and then you push the tent up and the tent takes shape. Getting the pole all secure can sometimes be a bit of a problem, but you just got to give it a bit of a push. What I've noticed with the guy ropes is they do get tangled up. So I tend to tie them up when I'm not using them. Otherwise you'll find you'll get your tent out of the pack and it'll all be tangled up. That's not such an issue with the Banshee, and I think it's because all of the guy ropes are in completely different positions, and also the rope's just that little bit thicker, whereas on the OEX they're all very close together. The back corners of the Bobcat are notorious for flapping about. You can try and get it as tight as you can and move the pole, but they tend to move in a bit in the wind. So there are mods you can find on YouTube that show you how to pull those back corners out. Right, let's get this tent open and have a look inside. So as you can see, it's a snug tent. There's an area at the front here for cooking, storing, and that's about the same size as the actual sleeping area of the tent. There are two pockets, one either side, one just there, another one here. I tend to use that for the door. And then there are pockets inside the tent also for various bits and bobs. So once the inner's connected, you shouldn't need to take that out again. You can use the Bobcat as a shelter and take the inner out. Right, what I'll do, I'll go and get my sleeping mat and show you just how cozy it is inside this tent. Right, here it is with the sleeping mat in it. And as you can see, there's not much room. However, it does mean you're snug in there. And the benefit is that your sleeping mat isn't sliding about, which is something I noticed straight away. So you're not having to worry about that. The only trouble is with these back corners, they tend to sag a bit. At the moment, the wind's coming into the tent, so it's blowing them out. But if you've got the wind from the back, that is going to come in where you're sleeping. This Tri-Nordic mat is a Swedish company, and the mat's got an R value of 1.8. It's a summer mat, and they say that with each purchase they will plant a tree. As you can see, the inner door has a mesh, which is great for the summer, but not so good for the winter. There's quite a draft that comes through there. It would have been a nice touch if they'd have put an option where you could fully close that, and then if you needed to, just take it down. The Bobcat uses this ring to tighten the guy ropes, whereas the Banshee uses this just here to lock everything into place and tighten things up. This is the peg out point at the back, which connects the inner to the fly, and that hook on its own just wasn't enough, kept coming loose all the time, so I attached a carabiner just to give it some extra strength. Well worth doing on both sides. Okay, so let's compare these two budget backpacking tents. So the Banshee on the right cost me approximately £130 about 4 years ago in 2019, and the Bobcat cost £59 about 3 or 4 months ago. The Banshee weighs 2.8 kilograms, which is very much on the heavy side, and the Bobcat weighs 1.9 kilograms. This is advertised as a 3-person tent. I wouldn't go with that. It's a roomy, very roomy 1-person tent, or a squeeze for 2, and that is definitely a 1-person tent. So what are the positives and the negatives of both tents? Well, the Banshee, what I love about the Banshee is that it has these 2 doors. So on a nice day like today, you can open them both up and you're getting a wind coming straight through the tent. I also love the fact that it's very roomy inside. There's lots of space. For 1 person, it's more than adequate. But as a consequence, you've got that heavy weight. It's nearly 3 kilograms in your pack. So swings and roundabouts. I really love the oversized pack, so I can just stuff it in the bag at the end if it's raining or it's windy and I just want to get off the hill. Everything goes in quickly. I like the fact that each door has a little tiny hole in the corner of it so that you can put your poles in and you can have both doors splayed out if necessary. The height of the Banshee isn't great. I did buy the Banshee 200 first, and I swapped it out for the 300 because the headroom wasn't as good and the length wasn't as good. I'll put all of the measurements of both tents on the video at some point. This tent is extremely waterproof, 5,000mm hydrostatic head. As I say, I've had it 4 years. I haven't reproofed it yet, and it's never leaked once. So it's a great tent. Over here, what I love about this tent is it's lighter, 1.9 kilograms compared to the Banshee. I like the fact that it's cozy, and also you've got better sitting room inside, so you've got more headroom inside the tent. This is also very waterproof, 5,000mm hydrostatic head. It has this really fantastic mesh along the top where the pole goes to allow wind to go through the tent, so it's not blocking the wind as much, which is a good little feature. There are plenty of tie-out points, so in windy conditions this is very, very sturdy tent, solid as a rock. I like the colour of this tent better than the light green. The darker green is more stealthy than this lighter green colour. So which tent is my favourite? Well, this one I've had a long time and I've taken it to several places. So there's a bit of a bond with the old Banshee, but if I had to choose one of these, it would probably be the Bobcat, purely because of the lighter weight and the fact that it's offering you, as a 1-person tent, everything that the Banshee's offering as well. So this tent, it's cozy, it will cater for me, there's plenty of cooking area, it's lightweight, it's strong, it's sturdy, great value for money, cost half of what the Banshee cost. But it's all about context. If I wasn't going very far and weight wasn't an issue and I wanted a camp where I had lots of room, I may go for the Banshee 300. But they're both fantastic budget tents. So if you're thinking about getting started with backpacking and wild camping, either of these tents would be a fantastic buy, but I think I would lean towards the Bobcat. Well, I hope this video has been useful, and I hope it's helped you out with thinking about which tent to buy if you're thinking or considering these two tents. And happy camping in the future, and I'll see you in another video.